Salom Bacha! Welcome to this Monday stream of Las Plumas de Simur. I am Plumas and I'm going to be your host for this epic and Sumerian afternoon, evening, whatever the time is, morning even. Is somebody seeing us from a place that is actually morning? So good morning to you. Good morning. Good morning. That is from Singing in the Rain, because in this channel we approve of the classics. Thank you for everybody. Thank you to everybody who's tuning in with me in this exhausting Monday, because let me tell you, it's been such a Monday. You know, when a Monday is a Monday from the A to Z, it's just like it's a Monday. So this is the kind of day that I had, and actually I'm going to tell you, you know, that I like to start with story time. My story time is that I messed up. I messed up with chum. I spoiled the stream. I just sabotaged myself. That's what I did, because today we're gonna talk about a book that I've read a million times, and a book that I had the chance to study because I have this book physically with me. And in order to prepare and to come even more ready to the stream, I took this book with me this morning to my office. And because all the rush and because all the jazz that happened today, which we're not going to actually enter in details, I just realized that I forgot said book in my office. So I don't have it with me. And it's a pity, because I wanted to show it to you and perhaps read a few quotations from the book. Perhaps. I don't have the book, and I'm not going to lie to you, but when I saw that I didn't have the book, I was very upset. I was very upset, I was sad, and I was not willing to do the stream anymore, because I thought, what's the point? What is actually the point of talking about something I do not have with me? But at the same time, I know there's people that look forward to this show, as we call it, in every Monday, and I just thought to myself, you know what, that is fine. And you know why? Because the show must go on. The show must go on. And I know a lot of things from this book. I know a lot of things from this poem that we're going to talk about today. So we're going to do the whole thing without the book. I promise you, it's not going to impact that much the content of the streaming, because the content is going to be the same. I'm just not going to have the book here with me to hold and to show you, and we're not going to read direct quotations because, again, I forgot. But that is entirely okay with me. I hope that is okay with you. If you are super upset that I did not bring the book and I forgot it at my office, maybe we can, you know, reschedule the live stream for, I don't know, tomorrow. But I think you will all agree with me that that doesn't make much of a sense now, does it? So thank you everybody for tuning in here with me. Thank you from the bottom of my heart to all the people who's clicked follow and subscribe to the channel. I'm amazed to see how this community, this amazing Twitch community of Butcher, keeps on growing. I could not be more grateful for that. Thank you. And at the same time, I could not be more grateful to my patrons, my lovely patrons that are there backing me up every single month. Thank you so much, Butcher, especially to those of tier Murshid and of tier Ashdod. Recently we're doing some kind of remodelation and modification over Patreon, so if you want to support this channel and to have access, for example, to early access content or to behind the scenes content, let me say, extra content, Patreon exclusive content that gets not released on social media or in these live streams, go support us on Patreon, patreon.com/Las Plumas de Simur. And you know, consider giving it a thought. Just get a browse, give it a browse. Just look at how tiny look. There's a tier for you. We accommodate it here in Las Plumas de Simur. We accommodate to all the pockets and all the wallets. And that being said, there's nothing. Pichur, praise the sun. Oh, and praise the sun for you being here. I actually was looking forward to seeing you here today. Oh, you give me life, guys. So with that out of the way, what are we drinking today? So today, because we're going to talk about birds, and that is a mini spoiler, we're going to talk about birds. I picked up my bird cup with my lovely golden, you cannot see it because of the light, but there you have it. there it is. I just picked up my golden mug with my golden bird, and I'm not going to drink it because this comes straight from the kettle and it's boiling, but it's just a rooibos whose name, very creative, is actually called rooibos nutcracker, and I have no idea what's inside of it because this is a mixture. This is a mix that a friend gifted me over the summer, I think. Thank you so much, Aina, for that. But I have no idea what's inside. I know it's rooibos, and today I need some peace and quiet because again I am tired. I am very tired. This is the difference between YouTube and Twitch. You actually get to see the worst of us now, do we? Such a beautiful cup. Thank you, really. Thank you. I really like the cup. I think I've mentioned that I got it in Uruguay because I went there. And I just bought it because I thought it was lovely, and it reminded me a lot of Seymour and too many other birds that I have the pleasure to work with. So, all right, let's get started. Now, before we get started, I'm gonna ask something I'm gonna ask something from you. I am gonna share over Twitter that we are actually started because I forgot to do that before. So if you could do the same for me, that would be fantastic. If you are not going to do the same for me, that's actually fine too. Just give me a tiny bit of a moment. And where is it? Yes, here it is. Here it is. Enjoy. This is happening. We are live now. Yep. There we go. Is the thing all crashed? No, it hasn't. So, I'm gonna take another sip of water and then we are good to go. Matcha, let me tell you something. This stream is possibly one of the dearest streams, live streams for me. This topic I chose with love and with care and with a little passion, and I was so excited when my patrons actually chose this one to go first because I know they choose what's coming next, and I am very excited because I got acquainted with this beautiful masterpiece when I was living in London many years ago, and I was fascinated. I was fascinated because it's supposed to be an epic poem, but it was different. It was different to every single other epic poem I've ever come across with in my entire life, and I was fascinated. I was fascinated about it. I got trapped and immersed in the whole plot. It's part of a wider cycle of epics, but this one, the poem we're going to talk about today, and the hero we're going to talk about today, they stuck with me, and it's been a very long ride, and for some reason, cannot explain why, this little character has always been sitting on my shoulder and accompanying me throughout the journeys and or the coming and goings of my life. So I am very proud to present to you today the poem, the epic Sumerian poem of Lugalbanda. And we need to start saying that Lugalbanda refers at the same time to one of the most famous heroes of Sumerian literature and to the poem itself. The poem is named after the protagonist. And the datation, the dates for this story, according to some scholars, among them the one I've used the most is Piotr Michalowski, and I'm really sorry if I butchered the surname, I'm trying my best. According to him, this story was created around the third Ur period between 2100 and 2000 before Common Era, in a period of time that sometimes in the sources you can find coined as the Sumerian Renaissance, which, if you ask me, is it's a very big of an anachronism, because at some point we got obsessed with this Renaissance and these rebirths. I am of the opinion, and this is personal, that nothing ever dies, just changes, just gets transformed, but not really dies or disappears. So yeah, according to Michalowski, that is the moment where wash your windows. Will do. Hello. That is the moment when Lugalbanda was written. And it is actually the period where most of the literature works and most of the epics are supposed to be written in Sumer. And although we know a previous version of Lugalbanda, more ancient than this one that I've just mentioned, in the first early dynastic period, around 2600s before Common Era. But sure, this is a while ago. And apparently there was, at this moment, Sumer was a cradle of literature creation, literary creation, and a lot of epics were composed at this time. Let me just quickly show you one of the tablets that are currently in a museum of Iraq, and this is one of the tablets where you have part of the poem of Lugalbanda. And yeah, it's important. The datation is important. The dates we give to things is important, because even though the version that we preserve dates to around, as I said, 2100, 2000 before Common Era, there was a prior one. It happens the same here as with the epic of Gilgamesh. We know that for sure there were previous versions of it. That is what's coolest thing, that there were previous versions, but the ones we preserved to this day are only date, only, I know, if I was any, if it was any closer to us, isn't it? Are only dated around, 2000, 2100, but it's important to know that there were previous versions. Why? Because this gives us an example of how importantly rooted these tales were in the collective imaginarium, in the definition of these people as a culture. Because I would never get tired of saying this, we know people through their mythology. That is what I am here for, yeah, as well. Because, you know, the thing of the mythologists suggested a lot of questions, so that is why mythologists are here to do, to study mythology and to understand what was important for these people at that period of time. So, yes. Actually, it's important every single time that you are working with Sumerian literature or any kind of other text like this one, it's important to allocate some changes in translations. Apparently from 1800 onwards, there were changes introduced to the poems, and this is the case of Lugalbanda as a character that is not just found in the poem whose protagonist of, but is actually like a triangle. It's like a triad of heroes that are the focal point of Sumerian literature. We have King Enmerkar, we have King Enmerkar, we have King Lugalbanda, and then we have King Gilgamesh, being this latter the most known. Does it ring a bell? So the first two kings, Enmerkar and Lugalbanda, are found inside what historians and scholars they called the matter of Arata. Maybe some more today we can talk about the matter of Arata. Would you like that? So now we're going to talk about the poem itself. And before doing so, I just want to show you. Should I leave this for later? Yes, I'm going to leave this for later actually. So, moving on. We're going to talk about the poem. The poem of Lugalbanda is divided in two parts. And according to another scholar, which is, and I am trying my best to say his surname, Banstifut. I hope I pronounced it properly, but in case I didn't, please do not throw any shade at me. I tried my best. So there's two works of literature that refer to Lugalbanda as a character, and they could actually be mushed up in a single plot, in a single just a single plot. And this story is actually divided in two different parts. First, we have Lugalbanda in the wilderness, and then we have the purest style of a Hollywood superproduction, The Return of Lugalbanda. Doesn't sound epic already. So one of the arguments, one of the main points of these historians to say that these two versions, Lugalbanda in the wilderness and Lugalbanda, the return of Lugalbanda, are connected, is that none of these poems seem to be complete without the other, which is very interesting. But we need to know, for a better comprehension, we want to talk about like a briefing of what these two poems deal with. Again, remember something, these poems are included in a cycle that is called the Matter of Arata, and these poems do not start the Matter of Arata. We can find them in the middle, actually. You can, in the very same middle of the Matter is where we find the poems of Lugalbanda. So, we start with Lugalbanda in the wilderness, and this is how the story goes. Enmerkar, which is the lord of Unug, which is one of the many names of the city of Uruk. Uruk was given many names throughout history. The city, the Mesopotamian city of Uruk. I should have brought a map, but again, what a Monday. Thankfully, I made it to a stream. So, Enmerkar, which is the lord of Unug, marches upon Arata, the city of Arata, to conquer it. Coming soon in theaters, the return of Lugalbanda. And a lot of, like very expensive sound effects that I don't have with me. So, we have this military force marching upon the city of Arata to conquer it. But on the way, Lugalbanda, who could be Enmerkar's son, but is actually not clear at all, falls mortally ill. And he is abandoned in a cave in the mountains because he's ill and apparently nothing can be done for him. When he is fighting between life and death, when he's in the very frontier between life and death, he raises a prayer to the great Luminaries. Do you know who the Luminaries are? We talked about them, but don't worry. I'm just gonna go quickly through them. Which the Luminaries in Mesopotamian mythology are three major deities. First, we have Utu, Shamash, which is the sun. Then we have Inanna or Ishtar, which is the morning star or planet Venus. The evening star or planet Venus. And then, last but not least, we have Nanna or Sin, which is the moon. And my personal favorite, Kiwi! I'll tell you later about the mortal scare that explosion sound gave me. Maybe headphones were a bad idea, lol. Maybe you just need to come on time to things, Kiwi, for a change. So, when Lugalbanda is actually fighting for his own life and for his own survival, he raises a prayer to the skies, and the great Luminaries come down from the heavens and save his life. So, Utu, or Shamash, which is a sun, kind of manages to get off the spirits of sickness, because in Mesopotamia, demons take the shape of sicknesses. A lot of sicknesses, not all of them, but many sicknesses and illness and maladies are considered to be demonic powers in Mesopotamian thought. And some of them are very, very dangerous. We talked about these briefly in another thread. I was on time. We talked about these briefly, but it's something that you really need to take under account and never forget when you are facing Mesopotamian mythology, which are that demons are linked with sicknesses and with illness, some of them very dangerous. So, Shamash kind of gets rid of all the spirits that are mortifying Lugalbanda and making him sick, and then apparently, because some of the pieces of the poem are lost, apparently it becomes a fantastic, terrible, cosmic battle between the forces of light and the forces of darkness. But we do not preserve much about that. That is a pity, I know, but there is where Lugalbanda in the wilderness ends. Then we have the return of Lugalbanda. So this battle kind of throws our little protagonist, because he's very young, I haven't said that before, but he's very young. This battle throws our tiny protagonist to the highlands, where the bird Anzu lives. This is considered to be one of the major demons in Mesopotamia. Careful with this. Anzu is a terrible, fighty thunderbird, and he's aggressive and he's very dangerous. So, to gain his favor, Lugalbanda throws a feast for one of his chicks, and kind of honors him like a prince. And because Anzu is very pleased with Lugalbanda's behavior, he gives him a boon, the ultimate boon, as Joseph Campbell wants to coin it. And I'm not going to tell you what this is, but this allows Lugalbanda to go back to Arata in time to help out his brothers and King Enmerkar. And you know, from there, actually Lugalbanda is sent to Uruk to honor Inanna and ask for advice in her temple, and then he comes back, sorry, not Inanna, Lugalbanda comes back, and finally Arata surrenders, apparently pacifically, you know, so I don't know about that. So, as I was saying, you know, the general mark, like the general frame of these stories suggests that indeed, as Vanshti pointed out, one follows the other. We have Lugalbanda being abandoned and then Lugalbanda awaking in the highlands where Anzu lives. So the campaign of Arata, I mean, you know, if we follow the whole campaign of matter of Arata, this campaign gets more or less plot-wise put aside to focus on Lugalbanda and centers on him as the protagonist of the whole thing, and only comes back, you know, the whole siege of Arata only comes frontline again when Lugalbanda comes back to Arata himself. So I think it's possible. I do believe these two poems belong together, and at the thing is, this is very interesting, Bichar. When you start reading the poem, when you start reading Lugalbanda in the wilderness, at the start, everything points out to Enmerkar as the protagonist, because he's not only an adult, but he is the king of Uruk. But then everything changes when Lugalbanda falls sick, and he is unarguably the center of the story. This is amazing. I mean, I really like Lugalbanda. Suddenly we have this very young kid, we don't know the age, but he's very young, he's younger than Enmerkar for sure, being abandoned or sick and apparently helpless in the mountains. So how amazing is that? He's the protagonist. He's no beastie hero. He's no tough warrior. He's a kid. So another point is that, you know, another point, if we can see that these two poems belong together, is this. So Lugalbanda in the Wilderness starts with an introduction where the poem kind of allocates the listener in a very particular space, in a very particular time. However, the return of Lugalbanda, or at least the part that we preserve of the return of Lugalbanda, continues the story after this epic battle, and just about when Lugalbanda awakes in the highlands, and does not dedicate too much time to allocate the reader or the listener anywhere. So kind of assuming you know where you're coming from because you read the previous part of the poem. Am I making myself clear? I think I am. And last but not least is the whole plot, the whole story, the whole argument of it. The final part of Lugalbanda in the Wilderness is a little bit complicated to understand, and the thing is, because we lost, like the thing is, we lost part of it. We do not preserve the whole tablet. But what happens when Lugalbanda is alone in the mountains is not only his survival process, because Lugalbanda has to survive by himself in the wilderness, but is also a metaphor for his kind of this ascension of his own being to a sacred category comparable to that of a deity. Why is that? Because the deities, the whole pantheon, the Luminaries themselves are granted protection upon him. They're bestowing him with their protection, and therefore he is not a normal human anymore. He has the divine protection of the heavens. Lugalbanda, from this point, is different to the rest of humanity, completely different, and he's kind of wrapped in this aura of divine power. And moreover, these powers that just the protagonists acquire, they turn out to be necessary for the development of the plot, which is the whole conflict with King Enmerkar and the city of Arata. In other words, everything kind of keeps falling into place. Everything comes together for this great finale that proves one more time, as the Sumerian and later Akkadian and the rest of the Mesopotamian thought had in mind, all was planned. The deities had this in mind. Everything was orchestrated, and the only and ultimate truth in existence is the will of the heavens, the will of the powerful deities that are above. Am I explaining myself? You see, because I normally work with these things, and sometimes I do fail believing that I am saying things out loud, very clear and very understanding, and nobody's missing out. But in some occasions that is not the case. So is everything clear up to this point? Because now we're going to talk about our protagonist, and because we're going to talk about our protagonist, I thought, what I don't show you. So we have this, right? So the two renditions of Lugalbanda that we have, I know exactly how we should portray him in the poem. This is the amazing rendition of King Lugalbanda by Christoph. The artist Christoph actually did an amazing job. I mean, I really suggest you go through his DeviantArt page to go all inside and, you know, like the tiny details, because I really like this piece. However, Christoph presented Lugalbanda as already an adult with his full power bestowed by the heavens, as you can see here in a very, you know, fantastic rendition. You know that I enjoy a lot bringing, you know, artists that are currently working, and I actually suggest, if you want to illustrate something, first that you credit the artist. Of course, we need to credit the artist every single time, and you know, you sometimes amazing art, isn't it beautiful? I really like this piece. Sometimes we can find, you know, real wonders and real treats. So cool, isn't it? I really like it too myself. So let's talk about the protagonist. Let's talk about Lugalbanda. The name itself, clearly not a child, but very, very cool. I know, right? I mean, Lugalbanda grew up at some point and became a child, yeah. Lugalbanda, the name itself, is it contains already a powerful strength, because it's formed by two words that in cuneiform already kind of give a hint about the great adventures that are awaiting for this boy. Because another detail, as I mentioned, is that this boy is a boy. He is a child when all this mess unravels itself. Yeah, that is something to remember, because normally these are the reason why I really like Lugalbanda, because he's not. I'm gonna take this one because I think it's a lovely art. Don't get me wrong, but I think it's defeating my point a little bit. Normally, we're so used to the protagonist of our ancient epics being adults, proper adults and tough warriors, and these kind of sturdy beasts, or muscle and little brain sometimes. Gilgamesh. But Lugalbanda is a young boy. He's a very young boy, and apparently if he's able to fall ill that easily, he's not that strong. But his strength lays somewhere else, and this is the reason I like him so much. So Lugalbanda, the name of Lugalbanda is divided in two parts. The first one is Lugal, which means king, and then we have Banda, that actually we can find it translated as young or tiny, like petite, but also fear, like, you know, fierce. So maybe the translation is something like young and fierce king. You know what? Let's begin making a comparison with lions, because, you know, of course, Mesopotamian Sinji. That is, oh my god, that is the best. Actually, no, Lugalbanda has a, you know, it's not Sinji Gadi, although I love to, but Lugalbanda gets inside the damn robot, in it. So, yeah, maybe that was the point the name wanted to give, but this is just my personal opinion. But it would not be entirely mistaken to just think of this as a depiction of the lions, because they're very important, they're major in Mesopotamian thought. Although we don't know exactly the age of Lugalbanda, we can assume that he's very young, and at least younger than Mercar, and the youngest of his brothers, because in the poem he's presented as one of the seven boys being born in Kulab, and a deity. Where's my team cow? My team cow says so. There's a deity who's called Urash, which is a Sumerian goddess of the earth, and she is told to give birth to these seven, and then the wild cow was the wet nurse. So again, you have represented once more the importance of the cow as an animal. Remember, Sin, Nanna, the god of the moon, has a cow with him all the time, and he is protector of the cattle. So basically, these seven young boys are said to participate, to be lieutenants in the army, and captains, and basically they have a place to occupy in these military hierarchy. But Lugalbanda, Team Cow, exactly, Lugalbanda is number 8. Lugalbanda is the 8th. He's not one of this, and he's said to be washed in water and march with the rest. It is important, to me at least, to highlight that Lugalbanda doesn't acquire the hero category by performing any violent deed. Anything. He doesn't do anything violent. He gets to the, he escalates the ladder of heroicness, and he reaches the title of hero without being violent. Ain't that one of the most amazing things in the world? Because remember, it's thanks to him that the victory upon Arata is achieved. Thanks to him. And we will see how. But all that he does is just come and go delivering messages and being, the thing I would like to highlight the most about Lugalbanda is his compassion. His compassion. We will see. He doesn't kill, this is something that I really want you to remember. He doesn't kill any monster. He doesn't kill any other human or hero. He doesn't defeat nobody. Like, hi Lucas, good to see you. He just doesn't defeat an amazing enemy by using his force like any other hero would do. He doesn't conquer another kingdom by force, just like Enmerkar wants to do. He achieves the hero category differently by showing compassion, by showing just how to express this. It's complicated actually. He just throws himself into something. We'll see. I think it's time for me to talk about the poems, because I really want you to know the story. I want to tell you the story, so you can know from now on that Lugalbanda is the best hero of Mesopotamian mythology. And remember, I always say this is my hill, I will die on it. Lugalbanda, to me, this is a personal opinion, is the most beautiful thing ever written. I'm not even asking you to change my mind. It is to me the most beautiful thing ever composed. So let's talk about the poem, the story, what actually happened. So as we said, Enmerkar, the lord of Unug, Uruk, the city of Uruk, marches upon Arata to conquer it, and on the way Lugalbanda falls ill. We don't know who Lugalbanda is to Enmerkar. Some people suggest he could be his son. The poem doesn't specify. Maybe. So, the important bit here is that illness itself had such an important and substantial role in Mesopotamian society that we have many different verses explaining how Lugalbanda feels and describing how Lugalbanda falls ill. Literally, he's apparently riding some kind of animal, and then he just falls. He just like into the ground, to the soil, and he's just falling. He's the prey of sickness, and this is the moment, or the poem suggests, that we actually not going to follow Enmerkar into the whole military campaign. Rather, we're going to follow Lugalbanda. So basically, the poem describes Lugalbanda as being wrapped and surprised by sickness because of a headache. It starts with a headache, and then he has some kind of convulsions, like a snake is. It compares it to a snake being trapped. You know, when they revolve and shake, and then he just falls, literally, like, and he is incapable of moving. He's incapable of moving, and apparently someone grabs his hand, and he, you know, like, kind of presses the hand, like, holds it, squishes, and Lugalbanda is not able to move at all. He's entirely paralyzed. So, with Lugalbanda laying on the floor, King Enmerkar and his soldiers debate what to do, and they consider all the possibilities, maybe to return him to Uruk, maybe to return him to Kulab, which is a city midway, but the military campaign is too important for stopping it right there, just for one person, even though we're talking about a person that more or less we could consider a prince, you know, categorically speaking. Finally, they decide that Lugalbanda needs to be left behind. However, it is true that they just don't abandon him. It's not that simple, because even if he's dead, even if he's sick, he's not dead, he's sick, he still is somebody very close to the king. So the poem explains how they bring him to a cave, and they're looking for somewhere that's warm and nice, because apparently he's also shaking and his body is very, very, very cold. So they know more or less that he's not dead, because they know his sickness. However, he looks like he's dead, and all his companions and soldiers, they arrange the place where he is laid like it was a military or like a princely burial. All the elements are there, and this is a very important part, because it brings us information. It shows and explains to us how, not just about food and all the daily elements, but how all the funerary rites and all the funerary performances were taking place. This is very important, because remember, we can learn a lot from mythology. So, as I was saying, sickness is one of the worst terrors in the Mesopotamian cosmovision, and it was very difficult to escape it. Very difficult. And at least we have 50 different creatures, between demons, spirits, supernatural entities that can bring all kinds of fever, all kinds of pain. So basically, we can assume that when Lugalbanda collapses on the ground, his companions and friends, they doubt he's gonna make it. They don't hold any hope about him surviving. So again, you know, following this the poem, they prepare kind of like a shelter for him, and they leave provisions, they leave food next to him, figs, and they leave dates and some cheese, some kind of adulterated meat and eggs, and some beer and some date juice, like the date syrup, and bread. And kind of they set up the table, they build him a tiny home, like a tiny house. So they think to themselves, if Lugalbanda recovers, if he actually recovers and makes it out of it, he could eat and get out the cave himself, and if not, he must start another journey, far more complicated, to the underworld. So with all the ingredients around the table, the soldiers make a lot of mixtures with oil, and they hang them on top of on this tiny shelter in the cave. They just leave him a dagger. You know, it is a passage that is actually very harsh to read, because it is described how Lugalbanda the whole time has his eyes open. He knows his eyes are wide open and they are full with tears. He knows what's going on. He just knows, but he's not breathing, he's not moving. Maybe he's, you know, under some kind of paralysis states, but he's conscious. He is conscious. The poem specifies that all the time he knows what's going on. He knows that they are abandoning him and they think he's gonna die, that he's dead. They even, like, you know, touch the neck looking for a pulse, but they don't find it. And finally, they leave. They leave Lugalbanda alone. And apparently they cry a river when they do. So, uplifting, isn't it? So according to the poem, Lugalbanda spends 2.5 days sick without being able to move. But after this time, what he does is being smart and clever. He raises a prayer first to the sun. I greet you, son, brother. That's so sad. I know, it's very sad, no, because he says, I greet you, son, brother. And he calls out the sun and asks him to save his life. He says, please do not let me die here. I need to get out of here. And apparently Shamash gets like, poor little Alvanda, I know. But don't worry, it gets better. And after Shamash, Inanna appears in the sky, the evening star. And again, Lugalbanda calls out for her and says, please, save me, help me, give me a hand. I don't want to die here. And there, it's beautiful. I'm gonna just speed up a little bit, and because I want to read you this part. And last but not least, you know, Shamash, it's shown compassion for Lugalbanda. Inanna has also shown compassion for Lugalbanda. And then Nanna, finally, the moon god, comes down from the sky with the bowl of heavens with him, and the whole cave irradiates with, like, the whole cave gleams and shines. And then Lugalbanda raises his arms one last time and he offers to Nanna what's left of his dying body. And he just cries and begs for his life again. And in that moment, Nanna accepts his tears and makes him to stand up again. So Lugalbanda can stand. Yay! In this moment, these very moments where the light enters the body of Lugalbanda again, he's transformed. This is a passage about transformation. Lugalbanda is no regular human anymore. He's turned into this harbinger of the deities, of the higher deities. The 3 luminaries themselves have considered him worthy of being alive. And not only that, they granted their protection upon his head. He shall not be touched or be defeated ever. He's protected by the light of the 3 great luminaries. How cool is this? So under this protected light, Lugalbanda steps out of the cave, and as it's been interpreted, he's born again. He's born again with the help of these celestial bodies. This is actually a very fun part because he kind of rediscovers everything again. He relearns how to cook, how to tend the fields. He adopts, this, oh my god, this actually melts my heart. Lugalbanda adopts 2 wild animals. He tames a goat and an ox and kind of domesticates them and takes care of them as a shepherd. And at some point, he's going about his life, and at some point he enters this kind of sleepy state where he's asked that he needs to sacrifice those animals for the deities, and he is so grateful that not only sacrifices the animals but tends a massive feast for all the deities. So basically what Lugalbanda does is organizing this massive party for all the deities in the pantheon, and what do you know? They do attend. Every single deity comes from the sky, because this is the real Mesopo party. The real Mesopo fiesta is the one Lugalbanda's organized. And apparently, and this is where the poem gets a little bit difficult because we're missing parts, apparently in this moment is when in the middle of the feast, because if you know something about epic literature, is that all feasts end up in tragedy. In the middle of these feasts, all the dark forces appear, and Hi, thank you. Thank you. I was definitely not waiting for that. So these all the deities are they're just having fun and they're just celebrating, and then the forces of darkness appear. They just appear and they mess up, because it comes this massive confrontation between forces of darkness and forces of light. And apparently we do not preserve much about the battle, but apparently its impact, its power is so much that Lugalbanda gets kicked out of the part. He's just literally thrown away from where he is, and he appears in the highlands. So before going about the other part, because remember these tricky, because this final part is being very much destroyed or lost, but it's something important to know is about the new status conferred to Lugalbanda, which I cannot emphasize this enough. Now he's a different creature. He's a different creature among humans. The poem talks about rebirth, purification, divinization, and a process in which the soul of a mortal is entirely offered to the Luminaries, and they hold this soul and bring it back, and now the soul's been upgraded. It's just turned into this sacred person, and the point is that if the Luminaries chose to do so, it's because they know this little boy is destined to change the course of events, because it's on him to save his brothers and to sort out all the mess that is been going on in Arata. So now we are moving to the return of Lugalbanda, and let me just show you the bird Anzu. I actually want to dedicate a whole stream just to Anzu because I love it. Big surprise, Pluma's talking about birds. I know, I work with them. Anzu is a massive thunderbird. Terrible, sometimes considered to be one of the most powerful demons in Mesopotamian mythology. It has a lot of descriptions, but basically we can imagine him like an eagle with the face of a lion, which, if you ask me, is bloody terrifying, isn't it? Here we have it. This plaque comes from the Louvre Museum, and this is one of the emblems of the city of Lagash. So basically what happens is Lugalbanda wakes up in the highlands, and somehow he knows cool birds to all my birds are cool. So Lugalbanda wakes up in what he knows to be the dominion of Anzu looks so cool. He does. Lugalbanda wakes up in what he knows to be the dominion of the bird Anzu. So Anzu's terrifying, and Lugalbanda knows that he has to do something, because something the poem highlights, indeed, something the second part of the poem highlights, is that Lugalbanda is extremely intelligent. So what he does, he just goes about his way and finds the nest. He finds the nest of Anzu. Is it like a griffin then? Not really, because apparently griffins have the body of a lion, and then half of the body. Anzu is just described as a bird. Just a bird with a face of a lion, not the rest of the body. Although we have representations, some people want to identify those representations with Anzu, especially one that there's a hero chasing a monster. Some people have identified that monster with Anzu, and other people identified it with Asaku, which is another demon, and the god there is identified as Ninurta. But I do not know. We know about this image of Anzu because it's identified. Actually, in the text over there, it says the name of Anzu, so we know it's him. And what was I saying? Oh yeah, Lugalbanda finds the nest of Anzu, but at that moment, Anzu is not home. Anzu is hunting, and there's a chick. There's a tiny chick from Anzu, and then Lugalbanda finds the tiny chicken, and Lugalbanda thinks, I need to show compassion to this tiny creature. I do need to show appreciation, because if I honor this tiny chick, I would be honoring the father, and the father would know that I respect him by respecting the son. So what Lugalbanda does is actually, it's beautiful. I cannot emphasize enough how beautiful this part of the poem is. So Lugalbanda honors the tiny bird like he was a prince. He paints his eyes with kohl, you know, this black pigment the princesses and high dignitaries adorned their eyes with. He also puts some essential oils in his forehead. He gives, you know, he goes to bring him food. He gives them some things to drink. He talks to the bird in a lovely, lovely way. I don't know why I'm here, but I'm hooked. Invictus, hello. This is a live stream about Mesopotamian mythology. I invite you to stay until the very end. So, and by showing compassion towards this tiny chick, Lugalbanda is actually playing his cards very well, and he's making a very smooth move because Anzu is going to be pleased with what he's doing. And then he sings to the tiny chick, and at some point the tiny chicken is so honored and is so full with food that he falls asleep. The tiny chicken, the tiny bird, goes to sleep. And then Anzu, the terrible father, which is hunting, he's hunting oxen for the love of Satan. I mean, how big, I mean, I haven't mentioned this, but Anzu is massive. And when I mean massive, I mean massive. It's gigantic. So just imagine the baby eagle, the baby Anzu must be roughly at least 2 to 3 meters tall. This is how big we're talking about. So, Anzu, who's hunting oxen, calls. From far away, Anzu calls to have his kid respond to him. But because the kid is sleeping, there's no answer. And Anzu panics. Anzu panics and goes back to the nest. He flies back to the nest so fast because he is fearing something terrible has happened to his kid. However, when he reaches the nest and he finds his kid with his eyes painted and these oils and just the remainings of the feast, he's very much pleased. He's surprised and pleased. Lugalbanda's not there. Lugalbanda, when he sees Anzu's coming, he's running his life out to hide in case, you know, just in case things don't go exactly down right lanes. Like, I'm just gonna take my precautions here. I'm gonna be cautious. Remember, Lugalbanda is very intelligent. And then, hello, Conde for sure. And then what happens is that Anzu wants to know. He asks, who's made this? Who's done this to my kid? Who that's a baby of 3 meters. Yes, but he's a baby. He's a tiny baby. So I'm going to take Anzu away from it. And then what happens is that Anzu wants to know who did that to his kid. And he says, that who's honored my kid so much has my respect and my protection. And then Lugalbanda kind of appears from behind, I don't know, let's say some rocks and some bushes saying, hi, it was me, hello. And then actually the poem, Anzu praises the intelligence of Lugalbanda, but before that Lugalbanda makes sure to honor Anzu as he deserves, as the powerful, mighty creature that he is. And Lugalbanda says, like, it goes on and on for lines and lines and lines, these massive discourse that Lugalbanda speaks, and he praises Anzu, he praises his power, his intelligence, his strength, and just begs for Anzu not to kill him. And Anzu in the end says, okay, I'm not gonna, but what you did deserves a reward. And this reward must be something of your choosing. And here what Anzu is actually doing is testing Lugalbanda. Anzu offers Lugalbanda all the power in the world. He offers Lugalbanda power enough to outpower all the humans and all the people and to basically rule upon the entire creation. But Lugalbanda refuses. He says, that is very kind of you, but I don't want it. And then Lugalbanda is tested again. Anzu asks him if what he wants is riches. He could offer him all the riches in the world, all of them, if he wanted. Anzu would give them to him. But again, Lugalbanda refuses. He doesn't want any riches, he doesn't want any power. And then Anzu asks, what is it you want then? do you want something from me? And Lugalbanda says, oh, definitely, I need, it's not that I want, I need something from you in order to save my brothers. And Anzu asks, what is it? What is it you could desire? You, as a human, I've offered you pretty much everything that humans normally beg for. What is it you want? What do you guys think is going to be the gift Anzu is going to bestow upon Lugalbanda? And as you think, let me show you this lovely illustration. There is a version of Lugalbanda adapted, but you know, it's like a kid's book. There's a kid's book of Lugalbanda that I also have, but I don't have it with me, with these amazing illustrations by, I think the name is Jane Ray. Yeah, Jane Ray is the artist who illustrated the tale. And here it's actually very nice because we don't have just one Anzu, we have two. We have the mom and the dad, and then the chick in the middle. And here we have pretty young boy Lugalbanda with them. So what is the gift you think Anzu is going to bestow upon Lugalbanda? What is the thing Lugalbanda is actually going to ask for? Oh, Kiwi, the true gift were the friendships we made along the way. Oh, isn't that sweet? This is getting cold very fast, I'm afraid. No ideas? Okay, so Lugalbanda asks for super speed. Yeah, peace, no? Lugalbanda wants to be as quick as Anzu is. With his flight, Anzu could reach in no time everywhere in the planet, everywhere, because Anzu has super speed, as he is a supernatural creature. So Lugalbanda wants to run as fast as Anzu can fly, so he could go back to Arata like in no time, then go and come and go as is required for the war to stop. So he is not asking for Anzu to finish the war himself. He asks Anzu to give him the ability to run as fast as the wind to be able to reach. I am speed, I am fire. Yes, Lugalbanda basically is the best superhero in history. So Anzu, this is amazing. Anzu once more is pleased by Lugalbanda. He's just pleased, but what he asks for, and by his personality and by his heart, he's so moved to see how Lugalbanda truly is. I mean, he's not asking anything for himself. He's asking for a power that would grant the opportunity for him to save his people and his brothers. My heart. My heart. And what do you think of Anzu? Does not only grant Lugalbanda with super speed, Anzu makes Lugalbanda run under his shadow. So basically, this is what happens. The shadow of Anzu is projected upon Lugalbanda, and as he is running, Anzu is flying from the top, and Lugalbanda starts to run, and mountains fold before his feet. Rivers disappear. Water, like entire oceans, because remember, Lugalbanda has just been thrown in the furthest corner of the entire world, in the highlands, in the very land where demons dwell, because Anzu is a demon. So you just, Bacha, how amazing is Lugalbanda, the best hero of all time? He's not only protected by the 3 Luminaries, he's protected by one of the high demons himself. Both light and darkness combine powers together, and when they encounter Lugalbanda, they deem him worth of protection. They deem him worth of absolutely everything. And Lugalbanda starts to run, and the entire creation falls to him. He just bows to him. So he is just like running in this very flat surface, and in no time he reaches Arata. Can you imagine the impact of Lugalbanda actually appearing, covered by the shadow of one of the highest demons, and presenting himself, coming back from what his brother thought it was a certain death, coming back from defeating illness, being the harbinger of the deities, and now being the protected character by the same Anzu bird, the storm bird, the storm demon bird. I am in awe. I am in awe. Amazing. Yes, thank you, Nosotros. Thank you. It is bloody amazing. He is badass, and remember, he's not violent at any point. He doesn't threaten Anzu with harming his kid, or the opposite. He shows compassion, and he showers the kid of Anzu with love, because he knows this is gonna get him further than being violent or aggressive. And then he goes back to Arata, and when he reaches Arata, they are pretty much is a mess in Arata. So he, with the super speed, he goes back to Uruk, to the temple of Inanna, the evening star, and he praises Inanna and asks Inanna what to do. And this is where the poem of Lugalbanda stops, and we actually get back to the matter of Arata, which in the end, I'm not gonna talk about that because I want to talk about this in a different stream. In the end, Arata surrenders peacefully, and nothing happens, nothing bad happens, and eventually Lugalbanda is crowned king after Enmergar. But just think of it, this like in conclusion, to wrap this all up, now that you know the story of Lugalbanda, to me, Lugalbanda is the proof that in antiquity, throughout history, not only violent characters have been praised. Lugalbanda is the embodiment of compassion, of love, of intelligence, of sweetness, and of just... he just throws himself into what he does. And because his compassion, and because all this tenderness, and how he could have asked for absolutely everything from the Lord of Demons, from Anzu, and he doesn't. He just wants to run to just warn his brothers that they're in danger. That tells you a lot about a character. No wonder he's my personal favorite. And yeah, of course, maybe I'm a little bit biased because there's a Thunderbird in this story, but you get my point. Lugalbanda is the best hero in the whole Mesopotamian mythology. And again, the sweetness of how this poem is written, the tenderness of Lugalbanda close to the tiny chick of the Anzu bird, the suffering of Lugalbanda being awake in a cave waiting for death, and his decision to just surrender himself and entirely offering himself, his body, his immortal soul, everything to the deities, hoping they will provide, and if they don't, well, this is life. How amazing is that we have characters like this, and remember, this is something that was written at least in 2100 before Common Era. And just as a curiosity, we know Lugalbanda from, somewhere else. There is, the royal king list, the royal list of Sumer. There is someone there. There is someone there under the name of Lugalbanda with, he has a nickname. He's called the Shepherd. And in the second dynasty of Uruk, after the flood, it said in that list that this king ruled upon Eanna for 1,200 years. Eanna is again one of the names of Uruk throughout its millenary history. And actually now it is, hello Morais, I didn't know you were there. And actually now we use Eanna to designate a certain archaeological district inside the city. And this is the thing. We don't know, the same that happens with Gilgamesh, we don't know if Lugalbanda was indeed a real king. We have no idea. if you ask me, and again, these royal Sumerian lists and these poems, the Epic of Lugalbanda, the Epic of Gilgamesh, they oscillate between myth and history, because we have certain evidence that there were kings named like that. There were kings named Gilgamesh, there were kings named Lugalbanda, but we don't know if the kings that these literary works were written about are indeed real. We actually have no idea. There's people who actually they put a lot of effort. I'm talking about Gilgamesh now because, as I said, Lugalbanda is not that known, but in the poem of Gilgamesh, Gilgamesh himself refers to his ancestry as being the son of King Lugalbanda. Do you remember when we talked about Gilgamesh that I said that he was 2/3 mortal, 1/3 deity? This is the 2/3 come from King Lugalbanda according to his own, to his own heritage. He is the one presenting himself. Bear with me, Bacha. Gilgamesh, the greatest hero of Sumerian and Akkadian epics, he presents himself as the son of King Lugalbanda. And that already gives us a hint about how important actually Lugalbanda as a figure was. I have another image of Lugalbanda. This was made by an artist called Codex Infernus in DeviantArt, and I again always credit your artist. And this kind of personality, this kind of importance speaks a lot about the relevance of said characters for the collective imaginary, for the atmosphere these myths we created in. Again, do not believe for certain the poem of Lugalbanda and the Epic of Gilgamesh are fictional accounts. They are mythological accounts. However, it is entirely possible that they are based upon certain personalities that lived before the time and whose stories we just do not preserve anymore because time has passed, and this was at least 5,000 years before today. 5,000 years ago, that is a very long time, and just very, very grateful that we preserve the poem of Lugalbanda, the same as I am grateful for us preserving the poem of Gilgamesh. But the idea that I actually wanted to throw at you is that what an arrogant guy comes from such a kind one as Lugalbanda. Yes, apparently that is what happened. But you know what I say? There might be a possibility that these kings, the original and historical Lugalbanda and the historical Gilgamesh, they were kings, but then they were so important. Their deeds, their memory was so fundamental for the self-explanatory narrative, for the self-narrative of these areas in Mesopotamia, that they just end up being myths. Do you remember when we talked about Thermopylae that I talked a lot about how these kind of cultural areas this is hard to explain. I'm trying not to be too much professional because I know how mythologists can be. Sorry. Basically, what I am trying to explain here is that there is a possibility that these people existed and they were so fundamental for the narrative, the cultural and identitary narratives of certain areas, that they evolved and developed their own myths because the memory was glorified, the memory was made bigger and bigger and bigger, and they became, as the poem of Lugalbanda already says, they became deities themselves. Same for Lugalbanda, same for Gilgamesh. But in my opinion, I want to think that maybe 7,000 years ago, there was indeed a king named Lugalbanda, and his impact was so big that he made it into the Sumerian royal list, and he made it into his own poem, and he made it into the poem of Gilgamesh, because Lugalbanda is everywhere. The heritage of Lugalbanda in Sumerian literature is great and is powerful. And after knowing of him, I hope that you understand now why I keep on saying the poem of Lugalbanda, the two poems of Lugalbanda, are the most beautiful thing ever written in Sumerian epics. And if you ask me, in the entire history of literature in the world. But again, that is just my opinion. I hope that today with this stream I've shown you that heroes are not always how we think of them as they are. Heroes can come from absolutely everywhere. And to me, even if it's not specified in the poem, because he's given a myriad of titles, but even though if it's not specified in the poem, to me, Lugalbanda is the greatest hero of them all. And that is all for today. Thank you so much, Bacha, for joining. Sorry the stream was a little bit longer than usual, but I did not want to split this one in two. I actually wanted to preserve all the energy of Lugalbanda in one stream. I'm really sorry that I don't have the book with me to show it to you, but if you support me on Patreon, you already seen the book, and maybe we're gonna do something with that book in the coming weeks. I know. Thank you so much to all the people who's tuned in. Thank you so much to everyone who's clicked follow. If this is the first time you actually came across this stream and this channel, and you're actually asking yourself, what the hell was that? Well, welcome to Las Plumas de Simur. My name is Plumas and I am the host. In this channel we talk about mythology, we talk about religion, we talk about history, art, around these two big topics that are magnificent and impressive, which are Iran on one hand and then Mesopotamia. I stream in English every single Monday at 6 p.m. GMT time. And then I also stream on Spanish, because I'm a native Spanish speaker, on Thursdays at the same time. So yeah, I just invite you to click follow on the channel, and if you liked what you saw, stay tuned for more. You can follow the project in all its social media, like Twitter and Instagram. And then thank you so much again to my patrons. I could not be here without you guys. You support me greatly. I hope I made justice to Lugalbanda. Sometimes I tell myself that this is too great of a deal for me to just present him in a live stream, but I had to try. I had to try my best, and I hoped you really enjoyed the ride. And again, if this is the first time, hello, welcome to La Pluma de Simur. And yeah, am I forgetting? Thank you so much, Bacha. I'm really happy you enjoyed it. Am I forgetting something? I don't think I am. Hi. So, if this is all for today, again, thank you so much for joining me. I am looking forward already to seeing you next week. If you want to, stay tuned with updates and stuff, the drill, follow the project on all social media, blah 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 blah. And yeah, it was my pleasure, and hopefully I will see you next week. And if you also speak Spanish, why don't tune in by Thursday, for example. No, thank you so much. I'm really happy. I'm really happy you liked it, because I was very self-conscious at some point, because I am utterly tired. I am very tired today, but I did my best. I hope that was good for you. Thank you for joining me. I really like these sessions, and I like my Bacha. I like my tiny Twitch community. I really like you guys. So yeah, if nothing else comes up, if you don't want to ask any kind of question, that is me for today. So remember, Bacha, as we like to say goodbye here by saying more or less the same all the time, but I will repeat it because I waited for you. I will see you next week, and until then, create, explore, and have fun. I will see you guys next week, and Khodafis.